The film begins with Ava waking up in the middle of the night, remembering her father's death 12 years ago. Ava, who was just 14, witnessed her father's death at the hands of two burglars who broke into the house. Following that horrific event, she had to lead a difficult life in order to overcome her alcohol and drug addiction. Until now, Ava has frequently missed her father, especially because her father, a criminal in Connecticut, taught her martial arts so that she could fight criminals who might target her at any moment. After successfully overcoming her dark past, Ava marries Derek Grant, whom she met at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Derek's father, Robert, who comes from a rich household, first dismisses Ava because he knows little about her background. Nevertheless, Derek defends Ava and persuades his parents that she is a fine woman. Derek eventually married Ava in Arlington. Later, they go their honeymoon to a Caribbean island where Derek's family owns a summer property. When they arrive at Derek's family home on the beach, they both notice a series of photos of Derek at the age of 3 with his mother, who had died a few years prior. Shortly after, Ava and Derek enjoy their honeymoon by participating in a variety of activities on the island, including fishing, water sports, and island excursions. The next day, the newlyweds visit a restaurant and meet Manny, a young local who works as a tourist guide. Manny invites Ava and Derek to ride Elevator, a mile-long zipline in the hills of the island run by Manny's friend. Ava and Derek accept the invitation, as they are interested in the activity. Manny also takes the newlyweds to a nightclub on the island to celebrate. While they are dancing and enjoying the music, Big Biz, the local gangster leader, expresses interest in Ava and attempts to flirt with her. Derek realizes this and tries to stop Big Biz. Unfortunately, Big Biz disregards Derek's advice and insists on dancing with Ava, resulting in a conflict. Manny tries to intercede, but his efforts are unsuccessful because Big Biz becomes upset and hits Derek. Outraged by Big Biz's abuse of her husband, Ava is obliged to apply the self-defense skills she learned from her father. Derek and Manny are taken aback by Ava's behavior at the time, and Manny continues to talk about them on the drive home. The next morning, Manny arrives to Derek and Ava's residence and informs them that Big Biz and his henchmen are on their way to exact revenge for the previous night's tragedy. Derek and Ava are taken aback by the news, but Manny smiles and admits he was simply joking, because he arrived that morning to take them to the zipline place in the forest. When Ava arrives at the place, she is hesitant to play since she is afraid of heights, but after Derek and Manny encourage her, she develops the bravery to attempt. Unexpectedly, Ava discovers that ziplining isn't so scary. Manny then invites them to a more tough zipline area. They have to travel a mile to get to the location, but they appear to be looking forward to the adrenaline-pumping game. Derek is the first to play when they arrive, but before he reaches the last point, the rope that supports him snaps, leaving him hanging on the zipline cable. Ava panics as she sees her husband in peril, while Manny attempts to save Derek. Unfortunately, Manny's inadequate rescue equipment stops him from saving Derek, who ultimately falls from a height into the forest. Without hesitation, Ava dashes into the jungle to find her husband. She is astounded to discover Derek comatose with a fractured leg. She also notices that the money Derek was carrying has vanished, giving her the impression that Derek's accident was not as it appeared. Manny, on the other hand, promptly calls for an ambulance to transport Derek to the hospital. When Ava plans to follow her husband to the hospital, one of the ambulance staff, Omar, forbids her from entering the vehicle, citing medical protocols. Omar simply gives Derek a business card for the hospital where he will be treated. With no other options and worried about her husband, Ava borrows a motorcycle and follows the ambulance from behind. Ava experiences an accident in the middle of the drive, which causes her to arrive at the hospital later than expected. Ava, panicked, inquires about Derek's treatment room, but the hospital receptionist assures her that there is no patient with that name. Ava attempts to locate her husband at another hospital, but oddly, no facility takes Derek as a patient. Ava, concerned of Derek's disappearance, reports it to the police so that they can investigate her husband's location. Following Ava's report of Derek's abduction, Robert and Derek's sister, Sandy, arrive in the Caribbean island the next day. Along with Ava, Robert and Sandy visit the police station to inquire about the status of Derek's kidnapping investigation. At this point, they meet Chief Roman Garza, who will oversee the case. After Ava narrates the circumstances of Derek's tragedy, including the disappearance of some money Derek carried after the accident, Roman concludes that the island is really populated by dangerous criminals. Criminals frequently kidnap wealthy tourists, such as Derek, in order to obtain more money. Not long later, Raymond, Ava, and others traveled to the zipline area where Derek was injured. According to the evidence of an employee grilled by Raymond, they admitted they were not at the scene when the accident occurred, which enrages Ava to the point of attempting to strike the employee who lied to the police. Raymond instantly apprehends Ava, and when they return to the police station, he reveals a video of Ava's fight at the nightclub the previous night. Raymond said she was affiliated with the most deadly group in the area, and Derek may have been kidnapped by gang members who were upset with her. Ava then begins disseminating Derek's picture and inquiring about him among the island people. But her efforts are futile because no one admits seeing Derek. Meanwhile, Robert, who discovers that Ava was responsible for Derek's absence, requests that she recompense him. This makes Ava increasingly sadder and angrier at Robert, as she feels unfairly accused for her husband's disappearance. Ava resolves to look into Derek's situation on her own. The first thing she does is visit the zipline place in the forest to question Joni. Because Joni continues to refuse to disclose the truth, Ava promptly ties him up and prepares to toss him into the wilderness, as Derek did. Ava purposefully tapes Joni as he panics, telling him to tell Derek what occurred. Afraid that Ava will drop him, Joni exposes his lies to Raymond during the interrogation, admitting that he was simply ordered by the criminals to force Derek to have an accident while ziplining. Ava immediately goes to the police station and gives Raymond the video of Joni's confession, requesting that the offenders be arrested. Strangely, Raymond urges his colleagues to arrest Ava on charges of attacking Joni in order to force the zipline employee to reveal his wrongdoing. He even begs that Ava be deported from the island. Ava is subsequently seen aboard a ship, handcuffed with a police officer who intends to deport her. During the long ride, Ava requests permission to use the restroom. The police officer agrees, but only on the condition that he enters the toilet to guarantee she does not escape. Ava agrees, and when they both enter the toilet, Ava attacks the policeman, knocking him out. She then uses the handcuff keys to liberate herself. Without hesitation, Ava dives into the sea and swims back to the Caribbean island where Derek vanished. That night, Ava returns to the nightclub she had previously visited with Derek in search of Manny. When Ava sees him, she instantly confronts and interrogates him about Derek's abduction. Manny claims he has no knowledge of the matter and offers to assist Ava in finding her husband. Ava eventually agrees, and Manny, knowing Ava is a fugitive on the island, takes the initiative to bring her to his house where she can hide for a bit. After meeting Manny's mother and brother, Ava begins discussing plans to begin investigating Derek's case with Manny. Manny tells them that they need to find Omar and other ambulance drivers to figure out who is responsible for Derek's abduction. The next day, Manny takes Ava to an area known as a gangster hangout on the island to learn more about Omar. Unfortunately, they don't discover any relevant information until Ava notices a flyer with the same symbol as a tattoo on the hand of an ambulance driver who previously transported Derek. They instantly inspect the logo, which turns out to be the logo of a combat arena, and rush to the battle site. When Manny arrives, he asks Ava to stay in the car while he investigates the fighting to locate the ambulance driver who transported Derek. Ava, on the other hand, notices the driver leaving the boxing arena and entering a car with a girl. Following that, Ava surreptitiously follows them until she approaches the driver in an empty building, threatening to murder him if he does not divulge what happened to Derek. After the driver confesses, Ava continues to beat him until he loses consciousness. She then calls Omar and asks him to come to the place. Shortly later, Omar, concerned about his colleague, hurries to the spot to see Ava. After pondering for a time, Ava, enraged by him, throws Omar to the ground before killing him. Because of her acts, Ava is finally apprehended by the police and blamed for the island's chaos. She then gets into the police car, expecting it to take her to the police station, but she soon discovers that the officers are taking her to the forest to be slain. When the cops get out of the car to dig a grave for Ava, who is still inside, she silently breaks free from her handcuffs and kills the cops. Ava subsequently calls Raymond and asks him to enter his daughter's room, which startles him. When Raymond enters the room, he is surprised to see Ava, who has crept in and is holding a gun at his sleeping daughter. Raymond, seeing he has been trapped, ultimately admits that Derek died in the operating room on the day of the accident. Raymond reveals that he had to cover up the case because he owed an obligation to Elbar, the doctor in charge of Derek's procedure, who had previously saved his daughter's life. After disclosing everything, Raymond, feeling bad about Ava and Derek, secretly resolves to do the unimaginable and leaves bloody footprints on the floor, which Ava discovers when she leaves his home. After that, Ava returns to Manny's house, grieving because she had to accept Derek's death. Manny tries to console her, knowing she is upset. The next morning, Ava decides to exact revenge by heading to the hospital entrance and attacking the receptionist who had lied to her previously. Ava quickly strangles her victim to death before placing her in the trunk of her car and snatching the hospital receptionist's ID card. With that ID card, Ava enters Elbor's room and wraps his face in a plastic bag while questioning him about Derek's death. Elbor then asks her to review the video camera tape, which reveals a mobster named Sylvia Lugo and his goons with Derek, who is still alive and in a wheelchair. Based on the security footage, the criminals took Derek to the surgery room. So Ava disguises herself as a nurse and enters the surgery room to save Derek. After successfully accessing the surgery room, Ava discovers that the hospital intends to use Derek's spinal marrow to treat the cancer Silvio has been suffering from. Just before the operation begins, Ava aims her gun at everyone in the room and pulls Derek away. As Ava and Derek attempt to leave the hospital, Silvio's henchmen instantly pursue them. When Ava and Derek escape through the emergency exit, Silvio and his minions appear to encircle them. So Ava kidnaps Silvio and instructs the mobster to take her and Derek out of the hospital. At that point, Silvio swears to exact revenge on Ava and jumps out of the car to join his thugs who are pursuing them. Following that, with Manny's help via text messages, Ava escapes Silvio's gang and finds Manny, who asks them both to hide in a village. Shortly after, Silvio appears in the village and inquires about Ava and the others' location. When one of the residents informs Silvio of Ava's whereabouts, the gangsters promptly surround the house where Manny and the others are hiding. Ava and Derek slay every mobster they encounter until she approaches Silvio personally. The residents come to watch the fight, and when the police arrive, Ava has already kidnapped Silvio, who requests that she be arrested because he has paid them off. Shortly after, Big Biz appears on the scene and asks everyone not to generate chaos that could jeopardize the island's tourism industry, which is the people's source of income. Big Biz tries to persuade Ava to give him the knife she used to take Silvio captive, and she eventually does. Big Biz then uses it to execute Silvio in front of everyone. Big Biz then orders Ava and Derek to leave the island quickly, even instructing the police to return to the station with the promise of paying them twice what Silvio had paid. Finally, the film depicts Ava and Derek leaving the Caribbean island on a speedboat. Moral of the story: always make sure your pants zipper is sturdy enough before ziplining, otherwise you'll end up in a tangled mess. And if a thug asks for your knife, simply hand it over and hope they use it to slice their sandwich.